I do appreciate everybody being here. And yes, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about Google Drive. And Stacy is going to be doing slides for us. So Stacy, why don't we start with the first one? So today's topic is really there are 6 things I'm going to try to cover. And let me say that this is Google Drive folders and docs 101. So this is an introduction. We're not going to be talking about a lot of in-depth things. And one of the things I had to really be careful about as I looked at what I was covering is to not end up going down a rabbit hole and spending a lot of time on little nuances of things. That can come for another time. So this is to help people to know what are Google Drives, folders, and docs. So what are they to begin with? Why do we bother to use them? How do you find them? One of the biggest questions I hear is that someone gives me a link to something, whether it's in an email or a chat on a Zoom event or whatever, and I go out and I find the document or the folder, I look at it, I do what I need to do, I get out, and then later I want to go back and I don't know how to find it. So we're going to talk about how you find these items. And how do you create a Google document if you wish to, or a Google folder? And who can read it, change it, download it, and so on. And do I need to have a Gmail address to use them? So those are the things we're going to talk about today. And please, if you have questions as I go along, ask them, put them in chat. And as Holly said, she'll funnel them into me as appropriate. And she knows what things I'm going to be talking about later. So if you ask a question on something that we're talking about later, she may tell you to hold off because I'll get there. But if I don't get there, please ask it again and make sure that we get it covered. I want to be sure we get everybody's questions covered. So these are the things we're going to talk about today. So let's start at the top about what is the structure of a Google Drive and Google folders and docs. So a lot of times we talk about the hard drive on your computer being like a file cabinet. And a lot of people don't seem to feel comfortable with that file cabinet image. So I decided to use a house instead. A house is a storage item. A house stores all kinds of things, and we store all of those things in rooms. And we can store things in the living room, and we can store things in the kitchen. And then within those rooms, we have other things in which we store things. We have bookcases in the living room that we store things in. And within that bookcase, we can have books and all kinds of other things. We also have things in the living room which aren't stored in anything additional. We might have a lamp or a vase or a picture or a couch or whatever kinds of things. The same is true in the kitchen. In the kitchen, we have additional storage devices besides the kitchen itself. We have a refrigerator. We have cupboards. And within the refrigerator or the cupboards, we have other items. And we also have things that are not in the refrigerator or the cupboard. So this is the same structure that you're going to find when you look at the hard drive on your computer. So if we look at the hard drive on the computer on the next slide, we can see that you have the C drive is there, and that's the main drive that you have on your computer. Within that, you'll have a folder that's called pictures, you have a folder called documents, you have a folder called videos, and then you have all kinds of other folders which you've created. And within those folders, you have additional folders. You may have a folder under pictures that says my 2019 vacation. And within that, you have lots of pictures. You may not have everything in folders. You may have a lot of loose pictures just in that pictures folder. And the same as your documents folder. In your documents folder, you may have a folder called folk dancing. And under that, you have lots of different dances, or maybe you have music, or maybe you have pictures that you didn't put in the picture folder because you want them over here in the folk dance folder, and so on and so forth. So all these are storage places. And the same is true when you look at Google Drive. So what you have on Google Drive is the same structure you have on your C drive. We'll go to the next one. And so what you have on that is you have your Google Drive at the top, just like you have your C drive on your computer. We have pictures and documents. You have folders. You may have different folders in your Google Drive. You may have an NFO folder. You may have a For us, a key close folder, you may have a family folder, you may have all kinds of folders. And again, within that, you can have other folders and you can have loose documents. So they work the same way. Your structure goes from the top down. And when you're looking for an individual document, you may find some under the drive itself, but chances are they're going to be in a folder, and they may be in a folder in a folder. So no different than if you have them in a file cabinet or if you have them on your C drive. So the structure is basically the same no matter where you look, and it's just a way of storing things. So any questions on that in chat, Holly?
No, I don't see any. So far, so good.
Okay, so why do we bother to use Google Drive at all? Well, there are several reasons. It provides backup. So if you have things out there on the Google Drive, it means that you don't have to have them on your computer, or it makes a backup so you don't have them only on your computer. There are other options for backups. There are Dropbox and OneDrive and external drives and all kinds of other drives. But Google Drive can also serve to be a backup. It also can free up space on your computer. If you find that you have so many pictures on your computer or so many videos or so many pieces of music that you're finding that your hard drive on your computer is getting full, then you can use Google Drive as a way of being able to move some of that stuff off of your computer onto someplace else that you still have easy access to. Again, it's not the only option. There's still Dropbox, OneDrive. Oh, OneDrive twice. I like that. External drives, we don't need to have OneDrive in there twice. Why don't I get rid of one of those? And there are flash drives, which is probably what I meant to say, and external drives and so on and so forth. So there are lots of different ways that you can have backup out there, but Google Drive is one way that you can do it. But the main reason that we use it is that the Google Drive and the Google Documents allow more than one person to be able to see, download, make comments or changes to that document. And as the last thing says, 2 or more people can make changes at the same time. So in the past, if you had say a Word document and you were thinking of sending this out, maybe you even had a flyer or whatever it might happen to be, and you send it out to 5 different people and you say, how does this look? And let me know what edits you'd like to make. Well, part of the problem that comes back on that is that each one is making different edits, and now you've got to go back and synthesize this whole thing and figure out who did what, and this isn't quite the same as that one, so on and so forth. By putting it out there as a Google Doc or a Google folder, everybody can see the same document. Everybody can see the changes or suggestions that everyone else is making. And if you want to be talking with someone else and making changes at the same time, you can both be in the document at the same time, and both of you looking at making changes and seeing what you think of how it looks. Several months back, we spent several months working on the mission statement for NFO because Rue Lester was in charge of looking at our mission statement, and we wanted to make some changes. And it was much easier for several of us to be looking at it at the same time and saying, what about this? And someone would change it. And how about if we put this over there and so on? And this is one of the things that Google Drive is very, very good with, is that you can all access the same document and you can all be able to look at changes that you want to make in that document. So it makes it a really nice tool to be able to use, which is the main reason that people use it. But what happens if you're having trouble understanding it? And what kind of documents do you have in your Google folder? So essentially, there are 3 basic documents. Now, there are others, and we're going to look at them in just a minute. But the basic documents are Google Docs, which are essentially Microsoft Word documents. Sheets are essentially Excel spreadsheets. And slides are essentially PowerPoint presentations. And slides is what we're using right now to show you these particular slides. So it's very much like creating a PowerPoint presentation. But again, it's done as a Google document. So because we've done it that way, several of us can see it can access it. Stacy's out there looking at the same document and she can be showing it to you. I can get on the document and make changes in it at the same time because I have access to it at the same time that she's showing it. Other people can get out there if they need to. So it gives all of us access at the same time. Now, why do I say it's essentially a Microsoft Word document or Excel or PowerPoint? It's because Google has modified these documents enough that they are not proprietary, but they are basically the same, and the layout of them looks very, very, very similar. You will find some minor differences, and that's because they aren't exactly the same document, but you can download a Google Doc to be a Microsoft Word document or a sheet to be Excel and so on and so forth. So they are totally compatible. They are just not exactly the same when you're editing them or formatting them.
Cricket.
Yes.
Susan Jensen asks, how do you talk to each other when you're working together on one of these documents?
You have a couple of ways that you can talk to each other when you're working on the documents. One of them, of course, is to use your phone. Another is to use chat. And we're going to talk later about how Google sees you in terms of being logged into the document. And in order to be able to use the chat function, you have to Google has to recognize that you are there. And so if you'll ask this question again later as we get into that piece of it, we'll talk about how Google can recognize you're there. But once you do, then we can look at the chat function and we can go through that. But if you don't have the chat function, many of us have used telephone, or we'll be on a Zoom meeting. And we'll open a Zoom meeting that we're all on, and somebody will put the link in chat. If we don't all have it, we'll all go to the document. And while we're in the Zoom meeting, we'll then go through and make any modifications. So excellent question, Susan.
And one more question from Patricia. You were talking that all of these products in Google are analogous to products in Microsoft. What if you're a Mac user?
Not a problem. They're still Microsoft products, and you can still access Google. And I am using a PC, and I'm going to be referring to things in terms of where you find them on a PC and the way they look. But Rue Lester has a Mac, and she uses that. And so anytime that I talk about finding something here or there, or it looks like this or that, if it looks different on the Mac, Rue is going to chime in and saying, but if you're on a Mac, you find it over in this corner and it looks like this. So, but they look basically the same regardless of which system you're using. Excellent question.
So if you're a Mac user and say you don't use Word or Excel or any of those, can you still use the Google products?
You can absolutely use it because it doesn't bring up a Word product. It actually, Google has its own product that looks very much like Word or Excel. And my experience, if you've been doing word processing or spreadsheets for any period of time, is that pretty much every word processing document or spreadsheet is the same. Some of the ways in which you do things are different, but they're all doing the same thing. So if you've had any experience with other word processing documents or spreadsheets, you'll probably find it reasonably easy to use this unless you're trying to do any advanced kind of work. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, about what if you're trying to do something a little more advanced than you find easy to do in Google. And sometimes that's true, especially with spreadsheets. If you're doing a lot of formulas and what have you, you may want to create your spreadsheet outside of Google and then import it in, but we'll get to that piece. But yes, it doesn't matter. There's still a basic Word document.
Is Google Drive free? Google
Drive is free. Google Drive is free, and the use of all of its documents, and a limited amount of storage space, although it's a reasonable amount. I forget how much comes with the free account, but you don't have to have a Google account in order to be able to use documents and folders that other people have created and given you access to.
And
Is
I
there?
add in that I'm on the Mac and I do not have a Google account and I have access to them.
So there you are. So you don't have to have an account to have access to the documents. But if you want to start creating or storing a lot of your own documents, then you're going to need to have it so you have some storage space. And even if you buy storage space, I think I pay, what is it, $109 a year or something, and I have 2 terabytes of space. I mean, I have lots and lots and lots. You can get 200 gigabyte of space for whatever at the lower level. So I'm not here to sell Google products, so I don't even have some of this information, but you can find it easily. But the bottom line is, no, you don't have to have a Google account to use any of these. And thanks, Rue.
And another question. I'm just going to read this. How do several people edit while on a phone call, etc.? Do you have to share the document with the other people, or is it done in some other way?
Yes, you have to share the document with the other people, and you can do that by sharing a link with them. If you're on the phone, it's going to be a little more difficult, but you can text them a link to the document. But it's easier to share the document. For me, I don't like working on my phone because it's so small. I like to work on my computer. So if you're going to share a document with them, my recommendation would be that you share the link in an email to them and keep your conversation on the phone and your documents on the computer. So if that didn't make sense, ask the question again. That take care of the questions on that? Okay. So let's go then to the next thing, which is, how do you find the document you're looking for? Okay, and this is assuming that a document is out there and maybe you've had access to it, maybe you haven't had access to it, maybe somebody just tells you where it is. If they give you a link to it and you click on the link, that will take you right to the document. But then let's assume that you've gone to the document, you've looked at it, you've gotten out of the document, and now this is 2 days later and you want to find the document again. How do you find it? Well, I know that a lot of people try to go back and find that email so they can find the link again, but there are other ways to be able to find the document. And one of them is to use Google Chrome, and I'm going to show you some of this in just a minute. So I'm going to mention some of these, and then I'm going to show you how to go about doing this. If you use Google Chrome, if you already use Google Chrome as your browser, that's great. If you don't use Google Chrome as your browser, you can go into your browser and type google.com, and it will bring up Google Chrome. And once you get into it, you're going to look for these 9 dots up in the upper right-hand corner, and it shows it right here. And then you're going to click on that, and that is going to bring up a Google menu. And we can see an up close of that in the next screen. And once you're on this Google menu, you're going to be able to see lots of different things that you can get. And you can see some of them here. This isn't quite all of them. And keep in mind that once you've found this Google menu, you can drag and drop these things around into any sequence you want. So that if you want to have your calendar up towards the top, and maybe you want your Google Drive up towards the top, maybe you want photos up there. So you can drag and drop these icons around in any sequence that you're going to find helpful for you. Once you find the triangle, which is Google Drive, and you click on it, that's going to open Google Drive. So let's take a look at all of this and see how it actually operates. And I'm going to start sharing my screen here. I'm going to steal it away from Stacy. And I'm going to go to that screen. Just a moment. Let me come back here. I need to redo this because I changed things here. and share my screen. Go to that screen and share and move Zoom out of the way. And okay, and I'll move the bar out of the way here. Okay, so what you have here now is if I typed in google.com, this is the way it comes up. I have my Google set up so that I have these little shortcuts. A lot of people don't use those. I do. And if you are interested in using the shortcuts and you don't, if you come down to the lower corner here and say Customize Chrome, and you come down, you can change colors. I don't care what colors they are. And you can come down here and say Show Shortcuts. If I take that off, they aren't there. If I put it on, they are there. And all you need to do to add a shortcut is you go to some place like I can click on this document we've been using. I can highlight the link right up here at the top, copy that, go back over here and say I'm going to add a shortcut, put my URL there, the link to it, and say I'm going to call this Google Deck for class. And say done, and now I have a link that will take me right there. So you can have lots of little shortcuts down there, but always up at the top here, it's going to show you a little icon, which is you, and then it has this little menu we were talking about, this 9 dots. If I click on the 9 dots, now I get this menu, and this is the one that I'm saying you can just drag and drop these things around anywhere you want them. And if I click on Drive, it's going to take me to Google Drive. Now, Google Drive has recently added something which is called Home. And it has a whole, this is the menu of all the things you can do here at the moment. And the top is Home. And frankly, I find this home screen to be more annoying than helpful. So I'm not going to spend any time talking about it because I don't find it useful. I may get in and try playing with it more and find some aspect of it useful, but so far that hasn't been true. If you go down to the next choice, which is My Drive, it then shows, just as we were talking about, like this is your overall at the top. Here's all my folders. I have lots of different folders. They happen to be in alphabetical order. I can click on the little arrow there and put them in reverse alphabetical order or back in alphabetical order. It shows the owner. It shows when they were last modified. I can change that and say I want to know when they were last modified by me. I can change that to say I want to know when it was last opened by me. I can do lots of different things, so I can sort based on when I was last using those. I can do a reverse sort, or I can come back over and sort them by name, which is how I usually like to sort things. It tells me the file size if it was a document, and I have a slide bar over here on the right because they more than fill the page, and it starts with folders at the top. And then I talked about all those loose documents that aren't in folders. Here's all those loose documents. Lots of loose documents. And you see all those little icons to the left of it. Those icons tell me what kind of a document it is. So it tells me that this is a Word document, and this is a spreadsheet, and this is a video. And it's trying to show me more about it, and I don't want to see that. And this one happens to be another spreadsheet, and so on and so forth, all the way down the list. And these are loose items that I probably should put in folders so I can figure out where they really belong. And I have lots and lots of loose documents here in my drive. Okay, what else do I have over here? I have shared drives. And most of us don't have other drives that are shared with us. I have the Veselo drive, which has a lot of videos in it from Veselo Folk Dance Camp. Computers, I don't have other computers that are tied to me. Things that were shared with me. And this has a lot of different things. It has things that Dale has shared with me, things that Stockton Folk Dance Camp has shared with me. NFO, I have things down here that Rue has shared with me from Scandia Camp. I have June camp things that have been shared with me. So all kinds of things that have been shared with me. I also, yes.
So if you have all those loose documents, can you put them in a folder?
Absolutely. I can drag and drop them into a folder. If I come back here, it's just like on your C drive. I can use a move function, which we'll talk about later, but I can drag and drop. If I want to have this 2023 NFO agreement in a folder, I can take a hold of it and say, I want this to be up here someplace. And maybe I say I want to put it in with camp dances for some reason. So let go of it. And now it's in with camp dances. That's just because I'm looking at that document. So now if I go up here to camp dances, there's the agreement in that folder.
So that question was from Bobby, but now Carlene is going to one-up her and ask, can you only put your own documents into a folder, or can you put a shared document into a folder?
I can put a shared document into a folder as well. Any documents that I have out there, I can put wherever I want. Now, keep in mind, if it's a shared document and you move it someplace else, it moves it for everybody it was shared with. So you want to be a little careful about shared documents and how you move those, because it affects everybody it was shared with. So we're not going to get too much into that because we're going to try to stay at kind of a beginning level today, but we can get into that at a later point in time or later on in the session if we have time and people want to.
And Susan Jensen also asked about shortcuts. Can you make a shortcut to a specific folder?
Can we hold that for later? And yes, you can, and we'll hold that. And that would be a good way to do it. So make a note of that we'll get to it. So that was the shared with me icon over here. If I go to recent, then it shows recent things. And guess what? It shows the deck we're working with today. It shows the program master. And then it shows other things. I was editing videos last night, and there's all the videos from the Hazmik Armenian Festival from 2011, which I just downloaded off of a CD last night and put into a folder for our Kiklos group, because Hazmik came and did this wonderful workshop for us in 2011, and I wanted to make those videos available to everyone in our dance group, and so I put them out there in our Kiklos folder and let everybody know that they're now available. So those are showing up as the most recent because those are what I was doing recently. And there's the Louis Tucker seminar or videos from the things she did with us. And then there's the other things that I was working on previous to that. So all those things are recent. So if you've done something recently, that's a good place to be able to find it. So if you've opened a link on 2 or 3 things recently and you're wanting to find them again, you can come here to the recent folder and there's a good chance they're going to be there. The other place to find them is starred. And starred is wonderful. And it's a little like bookmarks. You have to be careful because if you bookmark everything, pretty soon you have so many bookmarks that then it's hard to figure out which bookmark where they are. But starred is another place that you can store things. So down here I have the Global Folk Dance Party Master folder. I have NFO Folk Chats folder that's starred. I have dance descriptions starred. I have all kinds of different things that are starred out here. And how do I star them? Well, we're going to get to that, but I can show you right now if I come up here and look at this deck that we've been working with. And if you can see the deck, up here at the top is the name of this particular deck. And it's the Google Folders and Docs deck. Now, we refer to the Google Slides content as a deck, kind of like a deck of cards, a deck of slides. And you'll see off to the right of that, there's a star. And it's just a black outline of a star. But if I click on it, it now turns solid. And if I click on it again, it opens up again. If I click on it, make it solid, it means it now appears over there in that starred list. So now if I come back over here and I look at my starred items, and I come down here because folders at the top and loose documents are at the bottom, and there's this Google Folders and Deck and Docs deck, and there's the star. Now you can see that I could unstar it in the document itself. I can also right click to get my menu. And how do I right click if I'm on a Mac, Rue?
2 fingers on a keypad.
2 fingers on a keypad will let you right click, the equivalent of right click on a PC, and it brings up a menu. And if I come down here, it says organize. And here's one place that I can move it. I can add a shortcut. There's part of Susan's question. And I can remove from starred. So if I click remove from starred, that just disappeared off my list. So I can have something that is starred, and then when I'm done referencing that on a very regular basis, I can unstar it. It's still out there where it was. All I've done is removed it from my starred list. I haven't done anything to the document, haven't changed it in any way. It's just no longer on my starred list. But if I access it recently, it's still on my recent list. So I haven't done anything else with it except to move it off the starred list. That's all I've done. And you can see I use my starred list a lot. In fact, I was talking about, let's see, let me go back here. I was talking about just coming to Google Home. Let's just go to Home here. Okay, there's Google. If I just come to my Google Home, I can, well, I'm not getting what I was wanting to get. Forget that. We'll come back here. So I have all of these things that I have here that are starred. You also have things that say spam. I don't know how you get spam in Google. I've never had anything there. Trash is things that I have deleted, and they'll stay there for 30 days and then they go away. And it will tell me how much storage space I have. And it shows me how much storage I have. I've used almost 200 gigabyte of my 2 terabytes, so I have lots and lots of storage out there. So, any question on that? On how to star things and how to unstar them? Okay, then the other thing I mentioned that you can search for things. Okay, so we went to the recent, so we saw recent things that way, but I can also just search up here. So if I know that this was a Google Folders, that was Google Folders and something. What was it? Okay, let's try searching for it. Okay, it brings me a whole list of things. NFO Google Drive, comparison of sharing Google Folders, which was a Mady Newfield, a spreadsheet there. There's a program master for February 15 that says Google Drive on it. There's a Dropbox and Google Drive, the link for Pourparlers that is owned by the National Folk Organization. And here's my Google Folders in Docs deck. So I have a lot of choices here, and if that's where I wanted to go, then I can click on that and go straight to there. So your search can be very helpful. One of the things to be aware of in search, one is that if you have a lot of documents that have similar names, you might want to make sure that you differentiate from one to the other. When we do programs like this, we have a program master. And we have lots of program masters. So we learned very quickly that we needed to indicate what program master it was. This is the program master for the folk chants from the 17th of September. This is the program master for the 2022 Stockton Folk Dance Winter Weekend. This is for NFO 2023, Stockton Winter Weekend 2024, Global Folk Dance Party. So if you have lots of documents with the same name and you're planning on using search, you might want to be sure that you have in the name of the document identified more than just, for instance, Program Master. But search works very well. If I'm looking for an awards document, I have Awards Committee, Awards 2022, Heritage Awards, and then within this spreadsheet, there must be something about awards, and there must be something about awards in here. So if you have any idea what the document is called, then you can do a search and you are very likely to be able to find it there. So what does that mean? It means that if someone has given you access to a document that you think you might want to come back and find again later, look up in that upper left-hand corner and see what the name of the document is. That's a good time to star it also. But if you don't star it, at least see what the name of it is and try to remember that so that you know what you're going to search for at a later point in time. So searching is a good way to find things. Starring is a good way to find them. You can also bookmark a document. If I'm in this Program Master and I want to bookmark it, then I can get this link, or actually I don't need the link. While I'm here, I can do whatever you need to do on your browser to do bookmarks. On my browser, I click on the star over here, and this star has nothing to do with Google. This has to do with my browser. I'm not down here at the star by the name. If I'm up here in my search bar, in that search bar at the end, there's a star. If I'm on a Mac, Safari is probably the browser I'm using. So, Rue, how do you bookmark on your Mac?
I don't, so that was not a good question for me.
Oh, okay. So somebody who does use a Mac and knows how to bookmark.
This is Sherry. You do the same thing. You hit the star.
Okay, so on Safari, you also hit the star,
You hit
and then
the
it will
star.
probably come up and ask you, where you want to bookmark it and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Okay, so you can also bookmark it. I prefer to mark it within the Google Drive because then I don't have Google documents and folders bookmark up with the rest of the website things that I'm trying to bookmark. What I use up here for these bookmarks are websites that I want to get to. And I use so many Google documents that if I started bookmarking my Google documents up here as well, it would be even more of a mess. I mean, as it is, if I come up here to my bookmarks for folk dance, you can see the list goes clear down the page. It gets ridiculous. So if I started also bookmarking documents in Google Drive up there as well, I couldn't find anything. So I prefer to keep my searches and my stars and what have you within Google Drive and use it this way. But you need to do whatever works for you. So you can bookmark it up on your bookmarks with your websites and those sorts of things that you also bookmark, if that's convenient for you. One thing to remember in a search, it's no different searching your Google Drive than it is searching the web, for that matter. And that is that you want to be sure that you use enough words and not too many. And I find keywords are helpful. If I search on document, that's probably, going to be fruitless. If I searched on dance, that's going to be fruitless because I'm going to have so many things. Whoops, that was advanced search. That wasn't what I meant to do. I'm going to have, if I just click on this and then hit enter, all of these things have dance in them someplace. I mean, and it's going to go on forever and ever and ever. To search on dance is going to be ridiculous. For me to search on description or dance description is also ridiculous because I have too many of those out there. So you want to use a keyword that may not appear on absolutely everything. And that's where you got to think about how you search for things. So use something that's helpful. Remember the name of the document. But what's more helpful is your recent and your starred. Search can work, but they're not nearly as helpful as recent and starred. When I use search is when I'm looking for something that I haven't used for a long time, so it's not coming up in recent. For some reason, I didn't star it. Who knows why? So now I'm trying to remember what I called it or what somebody else called it. And that can be a challenge. If I have put it in a folder under a major topic, like Scandia Camp, so that I know that that information that I got from Rue about Scandia Camp is actually in the folder where it should be, then I can find it more easily. If I left it as a loose document, it's like trying to find that loose document on your desk. So no guarantees on how you're going to find that, because you didn't really do a very good job of filing it or marking it. So then you just start looking. It's out there someplace. It's not gone. So if you keep looking, chances are you'll find it. Worst case scenario, Holly says, worst case scenario, call Cricket. No. Get a hold of the person who shared it with you. Maybe they can share it again. And this time you can do a better job of keeping track of it. Star it, put it in a folder, do something that will help you keep track of it. Unfortunately, documents out there are just like pieces of paper. If you don't put it someplace where you're going to find it later, it makes it that much more difficult to find it because there are that many more places you have to go looking. Any questions on that part of stuff? Name of the folder or document, if you remember it, name of the owner. Oh, you can also search by owner. Yeah, so the other thing that you can do is if I'm not in Start, if I just go over here to my drive, or actually shared with me if we're looking for something that isn't owned by me, shared with me. And if I know who the owner is, I can go up here to people, and I can say I'm looking for something that I got from Holly, and I want all the documents that Holly might be associated with, whether I shared them with her or she shared them with me. Well, that may be far too big a list. So, okay, maybe Holly is actually the owner of this. Let's come back here to Holly and say Holly is the owner.
Just as bad.
Almost just as bad. But I have a better chance because now you can see it's only a couple of screens worth, and now I have a better chance of finding that document. I can also say that I remember it was a spreadsheet. So, okay, now I have a spreadsheet that's Holly is the owner, and voila, it's probably one of these.
Cricket, something interesting just came up in chat. Sherry asked, do you color code your files to differentiate them? And
The answer to that is sometimes yes, but if you'll hold that till we get closer to the end, we're going to talk about some of that.
Okay, great.
I'm trying not to get into some of the nuances of things because I'm trying to make this work for people who have had very little experience with it. And I don't want to get into too many nuances and have people say, now I'm so confused, my brain is jello. So bear with me. We can go through some of those other kinds of things as we get towards the end of it. Any other questions? Then Stacy, why don't I turn it back over to you and let you go on to the next slide, and we're going to talk about, you found the folder that you were looking for, now what? Okay, so you found the folder or the document that you were looking for. You went to search, you went to recent, you went to whatever. So the main thing is star it if you want to access it again. If you don't already have it starred, star it. That's also true if someone has just sent you a link to something and you're opening it for the first time. If you think there's a chance you're going to want to get back to this again, star it. You can always unstar it later. It doesn't hurt anything. Your starred list gets long, but that's okay. So you found the folder, star it if you want to access it again. Find the document that you want to read or edit, click on it, make whatever changes you need to do. Remember, changes are saved automatically. And that's something that when people first start using Google Documents, it gets very frustrating. How do I save it? There is no save because everything is being saved as you do it. Why? Because several different people can be making changes at the same time. And so Google is automatically saving things as it's done. So you change something and then you decide you liked it better the way it was. Whoops, now it's saved. How do you go back to what you had? What I didn't put on here, and I should have, and I will add at this point in time, is Control Z. Control Z is your friend. If you have just changed something, you've deleted it, you just changed the words and you want to go back, Control Z. Rue, how do I do Control Z on a Mac?
The same way.
But you don't have a control key.
Command Z.
Command Z. Okay. So Command Z does the same thing as Control Z. And this Control Z is your friend.
Or you can use the back arrow.
The back arrow also. Okay.
The little squirrely back arrow next to the plus.
Okay. Squirrely back arrow next to the plus. Obviously, that's on a Mac keyboard, not on mine. So either of those will work. Now, there is also a way to be able to go back and look at the history and be able to go back and replace something previously. We're not going to get into that, but there are other ways to be able to do it. But if you've just done it now and you want to do it, it will, and you can use Control Z more than once. You can, Control Z will change the last thing you change, and then the next to the last, and then the next to the last, and it'll go back 6 or 7 or more times. So you can change several things back the way they were. So you found your document, you've edited, you've done whatever. What if you want to create a new document? You can add a document if you're in a folder and you want to add a document. You can add a document from your computer. You can drag and drop, take a hold of it on your computer and just pull it over there. You can upload it, and we're going to look at that in just a second here. And you can also, convert it. Let's do the upload thing. You can also use new and create a new document. So let's go over here. I'm going to open a folder. I'm going to go back over here to start, and I'm going to open a folder. And then I'm going to share. I'm going to steal share back from Stacy here. At least I think I am. There I am. Okay. Got to get it over. I had Zoom so minimized I had to get back where I could get to share screen. And we're going to share screen and get Zoom out of the way again. Okay, come on, Zoom. Doesn't want to let me get a hold of it and move it. I have it up so high. There. Had it up so high I couldn't grab the top of it. Okay, so if I'm in a folder, and I can come down here and go to, okay, I'm in a folder here. Up here on the left-hand side, what I didn't talk about at the very top is new. And if I click on new, I'm in somebody else's folder. It's not going to let me do that. Let's go back over here because that wasn't the...
Cricket, I'm not sure that you're sharing what you want to be sharing.
Okay, then let me share a new screen and share this screen. Now am I where I need to be?
There you go. Yeah, you were sharing your whole desktop, so basically we were seeing the Zoom gallery.
Okay, that won't work. So if I come over here to this folder, which is my folder, and I can say I'm going to add a new document, and it lets me do a file upload, do a folder upload, create a Google Doc, a sheet, a slide, a form, or many of these other kinds of things which we're not even going to mess with talking about today. So if I want to upload something and I click on File Upload, it gives me the opportunity it brings up a folder which lists all the documents on my computer. I can go to wherever I want to on my computer. I can go to Documents. I can go to Downloads. I can go to wherever I want. And if I have something here that I want to download, I can do that. I can find we'll do a dance description. And I could say that I want to upload this. And it comes over here and says that it's uploading the item. It says the upload is complete and Bridge of Athlon is here. And here it is. And I can open it and look at it. Now, because this happens to be a Word document, it comes up and it shows me that here's the document, and it shows that it's a .docx because that's the kind of document that it is. And I can come down and look farther down the document. And here's the whole dance description, all kinds of cool stuff going on. You can read your next issue of Let's Dance and see it. And one of the things it lets me do is I can go over here and say save as a Google Doc. And so I can make that, instead of a Word document, make it into a Google Doc. There may be a reason I want to, there may not be a reason I want to, but people can edit this the way it is right here, right now. So anybody who has access to this has the ability to get in here and edit this. So you can upload things. If instead of uploading it that way, if I came over here and I opened on my monitor, if I open my downloads, and you're not going to see this on screen, it's over here, and I'm going to move it over there in just a second. And so if I move this over here and I have something that I want to download or I want to drag and drop, I can just take a hold of it here and bring it right over to here. And now I've just dropped that in there. And the January 2024 APS invoice is there. And there it is. It's a PDF file. So it's the invoice from the pool cleaning people. So you can drag and drop, you can upload. Questions on any of that? Sometimes when you try to drag and drop, it doesn't work. Don't ask me why. It's the vagaries of technology. So then you go to upload. Most of the time, drag and drop works just fine. And as I say, you can convert it to a Google document. You can leave it as a Word document or an Excel document. Usually, if you're going to do a lot of editing to it, it's easier to convert it to a Google document. You just go ahead and do that. Okay, and we can create new documents.
Cricket?
Yes, ma'am.
So why would you edit as a Google document with others rather than a Word document? What's the difference there?
Sometimes I find it easier to edit as a Google document because I can use the different functions that are available here in Google. If I'm just doing minor editing, changing some words here and there, if I want to do formatting changes, it's sometimes easier to do it once I've converted it over. And you can go back and forth. And before I turn share back over to Stacy, let me open a document here. Let's see if I can do what I'm trying to do here. Yeah, sometimes editing is a little easier if you have it as a Google Doc.
And so if you're editing a Word doc, can others see the changes that you've made?
Absolutely. If they're in the document at the same time, if you shared the link with them or they have access, yes.
Well, that's a Google Doc, but they can't share a Word doc, can they?
Yes. If you have uploaded a Word doc to your Google Drive, then and they have access to it as well because you've given them access, then they can.
And if you've made the edit in Google Docs, does that affect the original Word doc?
No, it does not, because they're two different documents. It's like making a photocopy of it. And that might be another reason you might want to leave the original alone and you might want to edit the Word document instead, or the Google document instead. And these are things you can play around with what you're doing. Some things will work better by doing it one way. Some things will work better by doing it another way. I generally prefer to turn it into a Google Doc because I find it easier to use the Google functions than when I'm editing it. Stacy, you want to take back the share and we'll go to 23. I think we finished up 2022. Let's go to 23.
And at some point, do you want to think about taking a break at a good point?
Oh, maybe now is a good time to take a quick break. Why don't we do that? We can all have a glass of water or whatever.
Yeah. In our backstage chat, we call these bio breaks. So we're going to take about 5 minutes here. So go ahead, get something to drink or eat if you need to feed your cat. I hear you guys. My cats have been very interested in this folk chat. Either that or they want to be fed. But anything you need to do, we're going to take about 5 minutes. And during that time, I will just talk about a few NFO matters. And normally in these things, we have been showing you some flyers for upcoming events. But this is the really active time of the year, and there are many workshops and camps and special events coming up, way too many for me to talk about. So what we have done is we've created a whole slide deck of these upcoming events, complete with links to how to find out about them. And we are going to give you access to this. So if you're interested in upcoming events, then you can, this is the opening slide. If you're interested in upcoming events, you can go to this deck and see them. And if you would paste the link to this deck in the chat. Stacy, number 32. Great, thank you. So if you're enjoying this folk chat and you've enjoyed our others, if you can afford to, we would love a donation. Any amount, $5, $10 is great. And just go to the NFO website to make a donation. We are recording this session. It will be available in a few weeks after we process it. And we post the links for the completed recordings on the folk chat page. So there is a folk chat web page, and you can see the listing of all of our previous folk chats and the links to them. So if we can also get that link in chat, that would be great. Upcoming NFO events, the big one, because the NFO annual conference is such a big deal, the solar system has agreed to put on a total eclipse of the sun to honor our upcoming NFO conference. I'm sure it's being done just for our benefit. Anyways, the NFO conference, that was a joke. I don't, yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Difficult sense of humor here. So our annual NFO conference will be April 4th through 8th. It is in Bruceville, Texas. Where is Bruceville, Texas? It is the middle of nowhere. It is about halfway between Austin and Dallas. And why are we having it there? There's a camp there that Texas uses for their annual folk dance camp. And it is a rural area. It is away from city lights, so it's great viewing. And it is on the line of totality. It will have the longest totality of anywhere in the United States, and also the best chance of good weather anywhere in the United States. So if you haven't already registered for the conference, please do so. You can go to the conference webpage and see what goodies we have in store for you. We are posting things almost daily about updates, and our special guests at the conference will be Jaap Leegwater and Philippe Philippot. Couple other NFO things. The mentoring project is an NFO-sponsored project. And next slide, please. And that's a little bit about the project. And if you'd like to find out more about it and sign up as a mentor, a mentoree, or just contribute your ideas, here's where to go. And anytime you're interested in any Zoom sessions or upcoming events, please do check out Judith's calendar. This is now hosted on the NFO website, and it's a great place also to find out about upcoming things. And so with that, I'm going to ask Cricket if she's ready to resume.
Sure.
All right.
Any questions about where we've been so far? For some of you, some people may feel at this point, I mean, we've been going on for almost an hour, pretty darn close to an hour. You may feel like your brain is jello. And if that's the case, that's fine. You may have absorbed as much as you can absorb. And I understand that. We all get that way. If people feel like they'd like to do another session to sort of pick up where this one left off, we can do that in a month or so. Probably not next month. I'll be involved with the conference, but we could do it in May. So you can't learn all of this stuff in one setting. The brain will only absorb so much. So hopefully we've come across at least some little tidbit that's helpful to you. And we'll keep going. We have more. Okay, so what types of documents can be in a Google folder? There can be Word documents, and as I said, you can convert those to docs. There can be Excel documents, and those can be converted to Google Sheets. There can be PowerPoint presentations, which can be converted to Google Slides. And before I move on to the rest of them, once you have these in Google, whether they were created there or whether they were converted there, you can always convert them back. So let's say that you have a spreadsheet that was created in Google, in a Google folder. It's a Google sheet. It's always been. Maybe it was converted to begin with. Maybe it wasn't. Who cares? But it's a Google sheet. And now you want to have a copy on your own computer because you want to do something with it or whatever. You can easily download that, and we're going to show a little bit about that a little bit later, but it can be downloaded as a Google Sheet. You can download one of our decks, which is a Google Slide document, into a PowerPoint presentation. So these things can be converted back again. You can also convert them to an image, to a JPEG or a PNG file. So there are lots of things. You can also print them, and we'll talk about some of that as we get a little farther on here. So they aren't, once they're there as a Google Doc or sheet or slide or Google document, they don't have to stay there. They are still movable. So besides doc sheets and slides, there can also be Google Forms. Many of you have encountered Google Forms that you filled out for different events. There can also be PDFs and videos and MP3 files, and there, of course, can be other folders. So a folder can have another folder in it and another folder in that, and you can nest those as far down as you want, although the farther you nest them, the harder it is to find things, just as it is on your own C drive. So lots of different documents can be out there. And who can access these? And this is always a big issue, is who can access these documents. Up in the upper right-hand corner, next to the little icon with your initial or your picture or whatever on it, is this big button that says Share. And if you click on that, on some share buttons, many of them just to the right, and it doesn't show on this particular image, just to the right inside the share button, there's a little arrow. And if you click on that arrow on the right, it will show you the number of people who have access to this document. And it will also give you the opportunity to copy a link. I don't like to copy the link from there, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But it does tell you how many people have access to it. If you click the button itself, it's going to show you a list of all of the people who have access to it. And it shows you their names, it shows you their email address, and it shows you if they can view it, comment on it, or edit it. If they can edit it, that gives them full privileges. If they can comment, they can actually make little comments on it. They may not be able to edit, but if they click on something, it'll come up with a little box and allow them to make a comment. If they can view it, they can't comment or edit, but they can download it and they can look at it. Do we need to see one of those? Do we need to see that list? Would that be helpful to people, or is it sufficient just to move on at this point?
I think if you can show it, that would be good.
Okay, then let me move this out of the way. This is why I have someone else sharing the documents, because we're trying to do several different things all at the same time here. And Stacy is doing a wonderful job on that piece of it. So I'm going to move this over here and share my screen. Share screen. And I think you can see my screen now. Move Zoom out of the way. Are you able to see my document?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and share is up here in the upper right-hand corner. We're not looking at the share button down here. That's just a picture. So here's the share button up in the upper right-hand corner. There's my picture. Here's the share button. If I click on this little arrow on the right, it says that it is shared with nationalfolkorganization.com and 19 more people. And I can copy the link here. As I said, I don't like to copy the link from there. If I click on the button itself, it brings up a separate window and shows me all the people that, whoops, tried to move it and I closed it instead. It shows me all these people who have access to this document. Lots and lots of people here who have access to it. It shows me who the owner of the document is. And down here you can change, because I have the ability, because I'm an editor, I can change their access from editor to viewer to commenter. And if I were the owner of this I can also remove their access. If I were the owner of this document, I could also change to make someone else the owner. And I would do that by clicking on their name. And then one of the options here would be make owner. And I could make them the owner of the document. So you have lots of different things you can do. Down here at the bottom is where you get a link. And it says copy link right now. And right now it shows that the general access is restricted. It says only people with access can open the link. So if I copy a link and I send it, only these people up here are going to be able to access from that link. If I send it to someone else, they're going to get a email and it's going to say request access. Because even though I sent them the link, I haven't given them access. So the other thing I can do is I can click on this and say anyone with the link. And now it says anyone on the internet with the link can view this, and I can make them a viewer or an editor or a commenter. And now anyone who I send this link to can get in. They don't have to be in this list here, and they are automatically editors. So you have different ways you can restrict it. I can let anyone have access to it as a viewer. Or I can let anyone have access and let them be a commenter. They don't have to be in this list in order to do that. But if it's restricted, then that means I can send them another link. But what I'm doing is I'm giving them another link to it, even though they've previously been given access. Does that make sense? And then I can either click outside of it or I can click done. So that's what happens when you're giving access to someone. Is that helpful? Okay. Stacy, take it away. Okay, so do you need to have a Google email in order to use Google Documents? And we've talked about this, and now we're going to talk about this a little more carefully. No, you do not have to have a Gmail address or, in essence, a Gmail account, which is the same thing. If you have a Gmail address, whether you know it or not, you have a Gmail account. And you don't have to. And no, you do not have to. That was interesting. And no, you do not have to have it to open a Gmail account. You can open a Gmail account with an address that is not a Gmail address. However, if you have a Gmail address, Gmail will default to that address when you open a Google Drive, a folder, or a document. And this is something that really gets confusing for people. Right now, if I were to click on, well, we'll go down to the next screen. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, up in the upper right-hand corner, we looked at that little circle that has either a letter in it or whatever, and then next to it, when earlier we saw the three dots for the menu. Well, if you click in that little dot, that circle, whether it has your picture or whether it has a letter, it will show you the address which Gmail has you logged into this document as. And we've had people say, oh my goodness, I haven't used that address for years and years. If that address still exists and you get into a Google document, that is what Google will find, and it will use that address. One of the problems that we have when we start giving people access to our documents to be able to use chat, and earlier Susan Jensen asked about using chat in one of these documents, using not the Zoom chat, but the chat within the Google documents. And in order to use that chat, you have to actually have access to the document at a lower level or a higher level than just to be able to get in and look at it and edit it. And that level needs to be that Google actually recognizes you. So there are two ways that can happen. One, if this address, which is here listed below Dangerous Dan's name, if that address is not the address that you have access to that document with, then we can actually share the document with that address, and now suddenly you have access at that higher level. Or you can come down here to the bottom. Let's show the next slide where we can see this up a little closer. And you can come down to the bottom and you can actually click on add another account, and you can add whatever email address you want to. However, and this is something we've run into many times, in order to add another account at this level, you have to have the password for that account. Otherwise, Google says you don't have access to this because you don't have the password. So people have said, I don't want it to use that old Gmail address. I don't use that for anything. And by the way, you don't have to use it for anything else. It doesn't matter. But if you'd rather have some other account, you have to have permission to use that account. And the only way Google knows you have permission is if you have the password. So sometimes people have said, I don't know the password. I don't want to create a new password for that account so that I now know that password. Just share it with that old Gmail address, which I have. Any of those things will work. But you can't add a new account without knowing the password to that account. The other alternative is to have the folder shared with the address that you wish to use. So we can do that too. Just give us an address you wish to use, and we can share it with that address. And it doesn't have to be a Gmail address. Google or Rue doesn't have a Gmail address at all. We share it with her. What is it? It's
AOL.
It's an AOL address, and we share it with that. We share it with Yahoo addresses. We share it with Hotmail addresses. We share it with anything. So you can share it with some other account, but that's what it takes in order for you to be able to access it. So, okay. Any questions on that? That's rather confusing, and it's at a little higher level. And if you don't understand it, if you don't need it, don't worry about not understanding it. If you get to the point where you need it, we can go over it with your particulars and make sure that it's clearer to you. So, where do we go from here? Try this out soon. Get out there and play around with some things. Take a look at it. Go out there and open a document. Take a look. At the very least, go to google.com if you don't use Google Chrome as a browser, and open a Google Drive and take a look at the list on the left-hand side. Click some of those things and look at them. You aren't going to destroy anything by looking at the lists and opening documents and closing documents. You really aren't going to destroy anything. And remember, Control-Z or Command-Z is your friend. If you accidentally change something, you can change it back. Also, Google tracks the history of modifications, and changes can be reversed. So worst comes to worst, we can reverse those changes even if you weren't using Google, even if Control-Z didn't do it for some reason. If in doubt, ask someone. There are lots of things that you can do out there, and you won't become accustomed to it. You won't feel comfortable with it if you don't get out and look at them and see if you can use them. Think about some documents that you've been trying to find. See if you can find them. If you can find them, go out there and use search. See if you can find them. If you can't find them, get a hold of the person or find that old email and get that link again, and then try starring it. Do something to use some of these things we've been talking about, because they won't make more sense until you use them. All of this it sounds good when someone else is saying it. When you get out and start trying to do it yourself, it's like, oh darn, this looks so easy when she was showing her screen. Now I can't figure out what I'm supposed to do with this. So if in doubt, ask someone. It isn't really that hard. It's like anything else. You learned how to drive a car. Oh my goodness, what it takes to drive a car. If you've ever taught someone how to drive, you know all the different things you have to keep track of, and which pedal you're pressing. And oh my goodness, don't forget to use your turn signals, and don't forget to watch for pedestrians, and don't forget stop signs and stoplights and balls rolling out into the street that children might be chasing, or whatever else might be happening along the way, and speed limit signs, and if you're in California, things written on the freeway that you need to know. So there's lots and lots of things to keep track of. And if you figured out how to do that, you can do this. This is nothing by comparison to driving a car. So it's not that hard. It's just a matter of getting out and doing it. So the main thing is get out and try it. So,
Cricket?
yes.
If you do delete a document from Google Drive, does that mean it's gone from your computer?
No, it is not. You can't really delete it easily. And we haven't even talked about how to rename them or how to remove them. But if you have accidentally deleted one somehow, you figured out how to do that, it just goes in the trash and we can pull it back again. So it's really hard to do something that we can't recover from. The main thing would be let someone know. Let someone know that you've done that if you can't figure out how to get it back. And actually, if you remove it, Control Z might bring it back again. It does with some things. So always try Control Z. Control Z is just, as I say, it is your friend. It is definitely your friend. But there's almost nothing you can do that we can't easily undo. Worst case scenario, we'll have a backup someplace. But, chances are it's just fine. So, is there anything additional you can do to make this easier? The answer to that is yes. If all of this made sense and you know how to do all of this, there are other things that you might want to think about learning how to do. Remember that what we've talked about today is just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to do something more advanced than what we've talked about, there's probably a way to do it. You can color code file folders in your so that when you look at your starred list or you look in your directory, things are different colors, and the red ones mean I need to do something right away, and the yellow ones mean they're regarding this or that, and green ones are something else. You can move folders into other documents and other locations. You can put shortcuts for documents and folders in other locations. So if you can't move them, you can make a shortcut to them. If you want them to be in two different places, it's better to have a shortcut so that you're all working on the same document, because if you make a copy of a document and move it someplace else, then people are making changes in both places, so you're better off to have a shortcut than you are to do that. You can protect documents and portions of documents from editing, so that if you have a spreadsheet and you have portions of it which you want people to edit, but portions of it you do not want them to change, you can actually protect them so that they can't change those. You can also protect them so that it comes up and says, if you do this, it's going to change the document. Do you still want to do it anyway? So that they can make an informed decision and say, yes, I really do need to change that because it's a typo, and that what it says is not nice, and what it should say is something that is nice, and I need to change it. So yes, I'm going to change it. And much, much more. You can rename documents. There are just lots and lots of other things that you can do. And we're not spending a lot of time talking about those today because this was an introduction to all of this kind of stuff. But we can talk about some of these additional things if people want to do that. We have time. It's 11 o'clock and we need to finish in about 15 minutes so Holly can do her close-up things. So, we can talk about some of these things if people want to.
Cricket, I received a message via phone from somebody who's not able to use the chat. Would you please go over the very beginning, a very important part is how do you get to Google Documents? If you're starting and you're a new beginner, so if you could go over that one more time, that would be a gift. Thank you.
Absolutely. We can go back to okay, we can go back to slide 19, if you will, Stacy. If you are using Google Chrome as your browser, then it becomes fairly easy to do. You look in the upper right-hand corner when you have opened your browser, and there is a little icon up there, and just next to the icon is this 9 little dots. And if you click on those 9 little dots, you'll open a Google menu. Now, if you don't use Google Chrome as a browser, on your search line, you can search for google.chrome, and it will bring up the same screen as if you opened a Google browser, if you opened Google Chrome as your browser. And Stacy, if you'll go to the next slide. Once you've brought up that menu, which now is a little larger here, look for the triangle, and these will be in some miscellaneous assortment. They are not necessarily going to appear in the sequence in which they are here. And if you get to where you start using this on a regular basis, you can drag and drop these icons around so they're in the sequence that works for you, and you have the things up here towards the top that are easier for you to get to. But look for the triangle, which may be down here, maybe clear down at the bottom. Look for the triangle that says Drive, and when you click on that, it will open Google Drive for you. And once you have opened Google Drive, just a second here. And I am going to share my screen here in just a second. Once you've opened Google Drive, share a screen. I want that screen. Zoom out of the way. It will look like this. It'll say Welcome to Drive, or it may look like this and just say My Drive. And that's how you get to things. You're now in Google Drive. And if you end up on this home screen, I recommend you come over here on the left-hand side and click on My Drive and ignore the home screen. It may have some purpose, and I'll figure it out at some point in time. At the moment, I don't find a lot of purpose for it. I find it more annoying than helpful. So does that answer the question on how you get to now a Google document? Google document will either be in one of the folders that are over there that either you or someone else has created, or it will be a loose document down here at the bottom, like those loose pieces of paper on your desk.
Kirk, I have several questions here.
Okay. Shall I quit sharing?
Sure.
Okay.
So the first one is a general question. The reasons that we would want to use Google Docs rather than something like Word or email or whatever.
Well, at the beginning of the presentation, we talked a little bit about that, and that was on slide 17. And there are a couple of reasons. One is you can use it for yourself just because it provides a backup. You can use it because you want to get things off of your drive, but the main reason most of us use it is because it allows multiple people to have access to a document without having to send copies of the document to all different kinds of people, all different people, and have them making independent suggestions on corrections. This way they can all access the same document, and all of those suggestions for corrections are all in one place. And if Holly makes a suggestion for a correction and Sherry sees that and says, oh, that's just what I was thinking, but I think I changed this word, she can just change that word, and Rue can come along and say, oh, well, if you're going to do that, maybe we could add this at the same time, and everybody can see what everyone else is doing, and so you don't end up having to synthesize all of that later. So one person doesn't have to get it all from everybody and synthesize all of it. You can see it. I've seen times in the past when we've had a document that was sent to one person and then they marked what they wanted and sent it on to somebody else and so on. And man, that's a hard way to do it. This makes it much easier. And as we said, people can at the same time have 2 or 3 or more or 6 or 12 or 15 people all on the same document at the same time.
What about
so those are reasons.
What about privacy concerns? Letting Google know everything that you're doing.
Google probably already knows everything you're doing. If you have a document which really requires privacy to the extent that you don't want to post it out there any place on in the cloud or on the web, on a website or that sort of thing, I wouldn't put it out there. You know, if it's your own personal medical information, I wouldn't want to put it out there.
Can a PowerPoint presentation be converted to slides?
Absolutely.
And also
and back again. And you can convert a slide presentation into a PowerPoint presentation.
Will that also work if the presentation includes video clips?
Yes, and you can put video in your PowerPoint as well as images. What you cannot put into a PowerPoint presentation or a Google slide presentation is a PDF. So in order to do that, you have to turn your PDF into an image document, into a PNG or a JPEG, and then you can put it in there, but you cannot put it in there as a PDF.
Okay. We had said earlier that we were going to talk about shortcuts and how to color your folders.
Okay, we can do that. So let me bring this over here, and I need to go to a folder rather than to a document, and come back here and share screen. And we'll zoom out of the way. Coloring folders is very simple. I now here have a list of folders, and it can be the starred folders, it can be recent, it doesn't matter. Anything gives you a list of folders. Now keep in mind that if you color code, I'm not sure on color coding whether it's going to color code it just for me or for everyone. That's an interesting question.
I'm pretty sure it's just for yourself, Cricket, because I've color coded things and you guys don't see them that way.
Okay, so it's just for you. We think it's just for you. So we're going to assume it is. So if I want to color code this particular document, people can see where my arrow is. I'm on Culture Talks and Crafts, and I could right click on this or two finger click on this, and it opens this menu, and I can download this. I can rename it. And if I rename it, it's going to rename it for everyone. So that doesn't just change it for you. I can share it with other people. I can organize it. And when I say I want to organize it, look at all these lovely colors. I can change my folder color. I can make it purple because I like purple. Purple doesn't show up all that well, but it's now purple. I can take this one and I can say that I want to make it red. Red shows up. Indices for spreadsheets. Oh my, that was a huge project. I can come over and I can make that one green. I can make it a light green. Oh, yellow. Will a light yellow show up? Ooh. See, it shows up better when it's not highlighted. Members only. I can make that one. I'm going to organize, and I can make that green, a dark green, a light green, have a number of colors. So it's easy to color code your folders. Now, you can't sort on the color codes. That would be nice, but you can't do that. You may notice that some of these file names have dashes and underscores in front of them or dots in front of them. Why in the world would I do that? I do that because I want them to come up to the top. So I don't want this to be sorted down under F, and all these numbers are going to come to the top. I don't want this to be sorted under M, so I put a dot in front, and so then it starts sorting by the dot. Well, if I want members only to actually be a little bit higher up in the hierarchy here than that, I can go to rename, and I can put 2 dots. And 2 dots moved it up above 1 dot. So when it's alphabetizing, it alphabetizes underscores before dots, and it underscores 2 dots before dot 2, and then dot C, and then dot F, and dot I, and so on. So there you are. So that's how you rename, and that's how you, and I want to move members back. I just need them to have 1 dot, and I don't want to forget to do that. So I'll rename that back. So Okay, so how do we do a shortcut? I come down here to a document. Can I shortcut a folder? I probably can. Let me see. Don't think I've often shortcutted a folder. Organize. Yes, I can add a shortcut. So this folder, let's go back here. This folder happens to be located. It's shared by me. And let's see, folder information, details. It's going to take a minute. There we go. It says that this particular folder happens to be in 2021 NFO downloads. So that's where it's currently located. And the owner is the National Folk Organization, and it was modified by me in June of 2021. It was opened by me in May of 2021. I must have opened it in June to modify it, but maybe it means prior to that. And it was created in May, okay. And viewers can download. So how about that? Gives me all kinds of information about it. And I can manage access. It shows me who has access to it. So all kinds of things. It says those people and 95 others have access to it. So if I wanted to put a shortcut to this, and I can close that. Oh, and I can show activity in it. That was details about the folder. And then it gives activity. And Joe Crawford shared 5 items, and Jeanette Gesslison shared something, and all kinds of activity were in that folder. So lots of history on it. So if I wanted to share a shortcut of that, I can go over here and say add a shortcut. And it says, where do you want to add the shortcut? So it suggests places that are places I've been to recently. I can put all locations. So now I can look under these same things that appear over in that left-hand list. I can look in my starred list. And I could say I want to put it under folk chats. And I can either add it, or I can click on this arrow and it can say inside of folk chats, where do I want it? I can now just add it here, or I can say I want it to go under folk chat minutes, or I can go under folk chat minutes and see what's under that. And there's just those minutes, or I can go back. So it allows me to do other things. If I say I want to go here under folk chats and I want to go under Google products that Cricket's talking about on February 15, and under that, I want it to go I can't put it in a document, so there's no folders to put it in. So it lets me know where I want to, and wherever I want to do it, I just say add. Is that clear, or do I need to go through that process again?
And exactly where does the shortcut show up?
It'll show up in that folder. If I make a shortcut to this, and I say I want to add a shortcut, and I add a shortcut, and we'll go to starred, and I'll say we're going to go to folk chats, and I'll say we're going to go down to Google products, and I'm going to add it there, and I say add a shortcut. Now if I come over here and go to recent, and I go to, let's go to starred, go to folk chats, come down here, go to Google products by Cricket Raybern, and there is a shortcut. And you can see, let me make this larger. You can see this little share, or this little folder with a little arrow. And that tells me that that is a shared item. And if I click on it, and it says it's a shortcut, and if I click on it, it will take me there. And there I am in that particular folder.
Okay, a slightly different topic. Just a question from Jacob Bloom. Google is telling me that unless I delete files from my drive, I won't be able to get more emails. Is there any risk that removing files from my drive will also remove them from my computer?
Files that are in Google Drive are, if they're also on your computer, it's a copy of it. It has no impact on what's on your computer. But if you if you put a file in the trash, it will stay in the trash. What you may need to do first would be to go out and look at your trash and empty your trash. If you have put things in the trash before and you have a lot of things in your trash, sometimes emptying your trash will help. It's sort of like emptying your recycle bin because it's still taking up space on your drive. After that, I would remove folders that have been shared with you that you no longer want, because those aren't things you want anyway. And I would just move those to the trash. But no, it does not affect anything on your computer.
And Gigi commented, is that delete email? Gigi, I'm not sure what you're getting at. So can you elaborate?
There is not a delete function for folders and documents. It's send to trash. What does it say? It says remove, and remove puts it in trash.
And can you explain about how ownership counts towards how much space there is in Google Drive? Do shared documents use your own drive space?
No, unlike Dropbox, shared documents do not use your drive space. If you own the document, it does use your drive space. And that's one reason, let's say, and I'm probably a good example, that I have created some things for NFO, and I then put them out there in the NFO drive, but I'm still the owner. There are two problems with that. One problem, well, there's actually about three problems with that, but one problem is that I shouldn't be the owner of it if it's something that belongs to NFO, because if something happens to me, it's gone. If I delete it out of my Google Drive, it's gone. And it should have the ownership of NFO. So I talked earlier about going to share, and you can change ownership. If you have something you've put in someone else's drive, particularly an organization, and that should be theirs, change ownership to them. And when you do, it sends them an invitation to accept ownership. Let them know that you've done that, because if they don't access the email address that's connected with that account on a regular basis, they only have, I think, like 7 days to accept ownership. And once they accept ownership, then they become the owner of it. And then you can delete it off of your Google Drive, because you're no longer the owner. So it takes you out of the ownership of it. It takes the space, it frees up the space on your Google Drive because you're no longer the owner, and it gives ownership where it ought to belong, which is to the organization. Excellent question.
Well, I think we are winding down here.
Good. I'm right on time. I like that.
First, I really want to thank you, Cricket. This was incredible, and all of us are just in awe of the breadth of your knowledge and experience with this. This is just amazing.
Well, let me say in regard to that, Holly, and thank you, that I had never used Google Docs until the pandemic, and we started doing all this stuff on Zoom, and we started using them. So it's not like I've been doing this for 10 or 15 years. I've used Word documents, and I've used spreadsheets, and I've used that kind of thing. So it's not that I was starting at ground zero, but they really aren't that confusing to use. It's a matter of doing it and getting in and working with it and being comfortable with it. You too can do this and be comfortable doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for me, what you just said is key, that you just have to go in and try it. You're not going to blow up the world. You're not going to cut off your electricity. So don't be afraid to go in and practice. And if you need somebody to practice with or to answer questions, you can always email me, and you can email Cricket, and we'll point you in the right way. There is a link that I put in chat a while back. Google does have a support function, a support site, and I'll put that in the chat again, but it talks about all of these topics. Let me get this in here. So if you want written instructions, go to the Google support site, and that might help you if you need a quick reference. Please don't call me in the middle of the night, but you can always email me.
And the other thing I didn't mention is that you can, on a document, you can, with that right-click function, one of the things that you can do is that, or actually when you have it open, when you have a document open, you can go to the top menu under File, and it says Make a Copy. And you can make a copy of that document, and then you can play around with that. So if you're concerned about messing up the document, make a copy of it. Play with that one, mess around with that one, do whatever you want, and then when you're done, just remove it, put it in the trash, and nothing you've done has hurt anything. It's just like making a photocopy and writing all over it. It doesn't hurt that original document. So if you're concerned that you're going to mess up the document, make a copy and mess up that one.
Good advice. Very, very good advice. Someone did ask earlier about the chat function on
yes.
On it's not just on spreadsheets, but it's also on slides and documents and all of that.
And
it's a big topic.
Let me spend just a moment with that. I'm going to share my screen and get rid of Zoom again. Get you over here. If we go into a document, and let's go into here, here's the program master, and you can see the chat function right over here. And I can close the chat function, and I can open it. And am I showing the correct screen?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is interesting. What you are showing is one of the documents that we are using behind the scenes for this folk chat.
Absolutely. And up here at the top are icons. This is my icon. And we talked about how I can click on that, and it will show me the email address that I'm using right up here. The other picture had it down below. This has it up above. And also when I hover over it, it shows the email address that Google thinks I'm using. These are other accounts that I have. I can close those or open those. But anyway, so that's me. And these are all the other people who are currently logged into it. Now, I'm not shown over here because Google assumes that I know that I'm in this document. So it doesn't show me. But it does show that Rue is there, and it shows that Sherry is there, and that Mady is there, and Debbie Jackson, and Holly Plotner. And right here, I click on that. It shows me 7 total viewers and all the people. And down here at the bottom, it says Join Chat. And I open that up, and here's all these people and all the messages. So during this event, when it's going on, it says, is she going to show a chat in the spreadsheet? I think someone asked earlier. Thanks, Debbie. I think I know the answer to my question, but it needs to be asked, blah, blah, blah. All these different things and different messages that are going on with back and forth. And do you want me to show slides? Are you going to copy and paste things into chat? I already have it. All that's how we know what each other is doing behind the scenes, so that we know who's doing what. And what slide is she going to next? Who knows? Maybe she'll tell us. I don't think it says that, but it could. But yes, so that's how chat happens. Now, all of these things are names. Debbie, Well, that doesn't work because you already have access to it. Martha, you don't have access to this particular document. Will somebody put the link to this document in chat with Martha? And then Martha, will you please open the document? Because I'll show you what happens if someone opens this document who does not have access. Now, what do I mean by have access? It means that they are listed in this list of people with whom the document is shared. And I don't believe that at the moment it's shared with Martha. No, because she wasn't involved in this, so it is not shared with Martha. So if Martha joins the document, she can get in and she can look at it, she can copy and paste, she can edit, she can do things, but she can't join chat, and she can't join chat because the document doesn't recognize her. Martha, let me know when you're in and I'll see you sign up. So what's going to happen is that another little icon is going to show up here on the screen. And it's going to be a little animal, and it's going to be kind of a little cartoon character of an animal. And let me come in closer so we can see those larger. And it's going to say anonymous something, and it has some wonderful names that it comes up with for these different animals. It comes up with animals I had never heard of. Are you there yet, Martha? No, we still have 7
I don't
viewers.
think so. I did send her the link.
Okay.
But she might not be paying attention right now.
Oh, she is. She's trying to do it. I can see that she's busy working on it. Martha had no idea I was going to ask her to do this, so.
Nothing like putting people on the spot.
Oh, absolutely. And she doesn't have a second monitor, so she's trying to do this on her computer while she has Zoom open at the same time. And so it's not an easy thing to do. But she will be able to get into the document, but she won't be able to get into the chat. And that's where we talked about making sure that you get access to the document at the share function in order to be able to open the chat.
And while we're waiting for Martha to get in, I do want to say that Martha is often one of our techs on these events. So she does know all about this. But I'm going to take this second to thank everybody who is a tech. And you can see all their little pictures there. So Stacy Rhodes has been doing our slides. Sherry Cochran is doing our backup recording for us. Mady Newfield is pasting all of your links into chat. Rue Lester is spotlighting and taking attendance. We are all backing each other up. Debbie Jackson is backing us all up, and Steve Himmel is backing us just up.
I just sent the link to Susan Jensen as well. Maybe Susan can get in. It looks like Martha's having a little problem with it.
Martha said she had to request access and was denied.
Oh, okay. So we'll see if Susan can get in. And if not, then we'll just have to take my word for it that they will show up as a little icon up there.
Do we need to change permissions so it's not a restricted document? So anybody with...
I'm doing that right now.
Okay.
So, and we may or may not be able to show somebody showing up there.
Yeah, it's done. So either Martha or Susan should be able to get in right now.
And then you'll see them show up as an anonymous. We get an anonymous platypus. We had an animal the other day, 2 or 3 that I'd never heard of. They were weird sounding. Who knows where they are? But anyway. So that's the way it works to be able to chat, and you can chat, as Holly said, in any document. If I go over here to our slide deck, it has a chat function as well. We do not use the chat function in the slide deck because it interferes with the slides, but we do use the one in the program. There it is. Okay, I have an anonymous rhino. So I have no idea who that person is, but I know that there's another person in here, and they're able to see things. They could type something in here if they wanted to type something in here, but they cannot open the chat. So they have access to everything, but they don't have access to chat. There may be a couple of other things they don't have access to, but I haven't really become aware of what those are. So yes, you can see everyone who's in the document, but not everyone has access to chat.
Oh, it's Martha.
It's Martha. Aha.
So that's basically how that function works, how that chat works. And so you saw in real time that we were communicating with each other. And the real benefit of doing that is that it doesn't interfere with the Zoom chat. So in other words, all of you are putting your comments and questions in the Zoom chat, and people are also sending the text direct messages. So my Zoom chat is just going crazy. It's really hard to keep track of things. So when I want to communicate with all of the people who are working behind the scenes, then I go to that Google chat, because only those of us who are backstage can see it, and we don't lose messages.
And the other advantage for us to use that during an event is that you cannot direct it to one person. It goes to everyone. So everyone knows, and that's helpful. During an event, it might be 15 minutes before the hour, and on the hour, Amit's supposed to be teaching a class, and somebody says, I'm trying to spotlight Amit, and it doesn't look like he's even in Zoom at this point. Can anyone find him? Oh, yes, he's in as whatever, some other name, or let me give him a call and see where he is, or all those sorts of things. And everyone's aware of it so that everyone can be alert and looking for things. So it's very helpful to us to have that backstage.
Yeah. So how would you use this? Let's say you're in a Zoom meeting like this with people at work, or your folk dance group or whatever, and you want to communicate privately with somebody. We use a Google spreadsheet to do it. Other ways, you could pick up the phone to communicate with them. But for instance, Saturday is going to be the Global Folk Dance Party. And while I am on screen leading dances, if Cricket wants to communicate to me that we're short on time and to add another dance, if she calls me on the phone while I'm out there leading a dance, not only am I not going to be able to answer the phone, but then y'all are going to hear my phone ringing. But if she sends me a message in the backstage chat that you just saw, then I will see the message. So that's one way we can use these products. So there's lots of flexibility here. Thanks again, Cricket. Thank you to all of you for coming. This was wonderful. I know there are a lot more questions. And again, you can always email us with questions, either personally, or there is an email address on the website that you can send questions to. At this point, I think we're going to wind it up. I have a few closing announcements. The first thing I want to do is, again, thank the team. Cricket, our presenter extraordinaire, Stacy on slides, Rue on spotlighting and attendance, Mady on copying and pasting, Sherry, local recording, and Debbie and Steve backing us up all over the place. And we all do back up each other. And one of the things that's going on in that chat that we've been talking about is we're cueing each other on what we may have coming up, what we may have missed, thanking each other for backing each other up, etc. Occasionally we tell jokes. All right, Stacy, if we can have 42. Again, if you have questions, comments, requests, suggestions for future chats, email us. And that link is going in the chat as well, that email address. Next, please. Why become an NFO member? There are many reasons. The best reason is just to support an organization that you believe in. What are the benefits for you? Liability insurance for you or your group. That's a big one. You get a quarterly newsletter from NFO telling you what's going on in the world. This whole folks chat series. Your membership helps support this series. We have an annual conference. If you haven't been, go to the website right now and register. It's they're really wonderful opportunities for networking, for learning, for dancing, many, many things. If you are a member, you do get to vote at our annual membership meeting. We have a listserv for members only where we not just post upcoming events, but talk about topics of current concern. We do have a Zoom sharing program. If you are a member of NFO, if you have a need to use a Zoom like we are doing now for your folk dance groups meeting or your committee meetings or whatever, we will share our Zoom account with you. And there are once you become a member, there's a form you fill out requesting to have a Zoom, and we will get back with you and work that out. This is a wonderful network community. We do have some grants, several types of grants, and of course, we're connecting through culture. So please become an NFO member if you aren't already. Membership rates, pretty darn low. So you can see that for yourself. And last slide, we will be doing more folk chats this year. Stay tuned. We do post to our members only list notice of upcoming chats. If you have already come to a chat, you are registered for future ones, so you will also be getting announcements. And last slide, please. So if you enjoyed this and if you can afford to make a donation, any amount is greatly, greatly appreciated. And we did record this session. The recording will be available in a few weeks on the website. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all my techs for helping make this work. And a special thanks to Crickets. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please do email us and go to the website and check out the conference. I hope to see you all there in April.
Thank you so much. I hope that you got something that made it worth your time today.